The Aleph Institute is an organization that helps Jews incarcerated or institutionalized throughout the country, working with them, working with the administration, trying to provide them with all the religious requirements as much as we can. Because Shabbos is such an important day in the Jewish week, and it's such a day which there's so many requirements, we've decided to dedicate this video and to teach what Shabbos is.
Religion is a very, very instrumental part of one's life and well-being, and I think it should be enhanced, it should be encouraged by all different powers that may be.
Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who commanded us to kindle the Sabbath lights. The Sabbath. It is our day of rest. Some call it Shabbat, others the Sabbath, yet others Shabbos. To many Jews, it represents a break from the pressures and problems of everyday life and an escape to a day of spiritual reflection and physical rest. It gives us a chance to strengthen our relationship with God.
One of the most powerful Jewish symbols is the welcoming of Shabbos by lighting candles. Our tradition is that the candle symbolizes the light of the human soul. Someone lost on a dark night, a single candle lights up the way and shows you the direction you have to go. In the same way, all of us are lost in this world, seeking purpose, seeking direction. By getting in touch with the soul, trying to understand the holiness within ourselves and link up to it, gives us a direction to know where we have to go and what we have to do.
In the first book of the Bible, Genesis, it is written that God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. From this we have set aside 1 day a week, devoted to menucha, rest. Keeping the Sabbath is one of the big 10 commandments, that is. It is, in fact, the fourth commandment. Thou shalt remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. The Sabbath is the one religious ritual repeated more often in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, than any other commandment.
To my mind, there are 2 themes that stand out in the Shabbos. The first is that the world has a purpose. We're not random specks of dust, but God created us, and God has a plan for all of us. The second theme emphasized on Shabbos is that with all the pain, the world is a good place. That's why we are commanded to have our best food, our best clothing. So it makes Shabbos a special day to remind ourselves that with all the challenges, with all the hardship, it is a good world.
The Sabbath is the focus of Jewish belief. For thousands of years, Jews have kept this once-a-week holiday, even under the most adverse conditions. In 167 BCE, the Greeks forbade the Jews from keeping the Sabbath laws, but the community did not waver. In the 1400s, the Spanish forced Jews to convert to Christianity, but Jews still kept our laws in private. These were the Marranos. And even in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany just 60 years ago, in a world that was incredibly unbearable, Jews clung to our Sabbath, promising a taste of the world to come.
After the prayer, we go home, or wherever we have to go, and we sing the Shalom Aleichem. That is, the Talmud teaches us that we're escorted to our homes or to our places where we are by angels, and we sing the Shalom Aleichem, followed by the Eishes Chayil, which is the bride. Shabbos is considered a bride.
Yet others take this opportunity to bless their children, usually from the oldest to the youngest. No matter how you begin your Sabbath, it is a family affair.
Even when the children are not at home, or when I am far away from them, I can still send out my blessings to them wherever they are. And that's something all of us can do on Friday night, to send out blessings to those we love, even when we're separated from them. May God bless you and keep you. May He shine His face upon you and give you peace. May the Shabbos be a day of true rest for you and yours.
We begin our Shabbat meal with a blessing over wine or grape juice. The prayer of Kiddush describes the sanctity of the Sabbath and the holiness of the Jewish people. We make the Kiddush while holding the cup of wine or grape juice. It is customary to use a beautiful cup or silver goblet. Friday night Kiddush consists of 3 parts. In the first, we testify that God created the world and rested on the 7th day. In the second part, we say the actual blessing on the wine. By doing this, we acknowledge our thankfulness to God. And in the final part of the Kiddush, we affirm the sanctity of the Sabbath and of the Jewish people who observe it. According to tradition, God offered the Torah to all the nations of the world, but they refused because of the restrictions and laws it required. This acceptance over 3,000 years ago created a bond between the Torah and the Jewish people, which still exists today. Now we prepare for the meal, first by washing our hands. Hand washing has its roots in the purity present in the time of the temple in Jerusalem. The second temple stood from 350 BCE until 70 CE, when it was destroyed by the Romans. Washing is one of the remaining rituals dating back to those days. After we wash, we return to the table without talking. Now we can make the blessing over the chalot, the delicious egg bread that many Jewish families make for themselves.
We use 2 challahs because when the Jews were in the desert, Hashem provided us with manna instead of food. Hashem gave us the manna every morning. It fell, and we gathered together. But Shabbos, He didn't want us to gather any man, so on Friday He gave us 2 portions of man. So we should have for Shabbos, and that was enough for us for Shabbos.
One more thing. When we make the challah, we take a small piece off and put it aside. That technically is the challah. Why do we do this? Because in the Torah it says, "The first of our dough shall be taken as a tithe." This portion was given to the priests to help support them, and to this day, when we make challahs, we take a small piece aside. Though we don't give it to priests today, we burn it as an offering to God.
Amen.
And now we eat. On the Sabbath, we have a special meal. We serve our family and our guests our best. Traditionally, the meal includes some fish, soup, and chicken or meat.
One of the requirements when we sit around the table and we're eating this festive meal, in between courses, we sing. There are various customs of what songs we sing. There's many books out of what songs we sing on Shabbos.
After a delicious meal and wonderful company, we now have one last task to do. We thank God for the food. Some families pass around a cup of water and a bowl to rinse their hands before the prayers. Not all do. But now we gather together and raise our voices in the Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals. There is a whole body of ritual laws which govern this once-a-week holiday. We can't possibly go into it all, but a small explanation is needed.
We sanctify the day by refraining from doing any work. That includes turning on and off lights and having any contact with any electrical or any mechanical. A Jew has to rest on the 7th day.
The restrictions, for anyone who's used to them, are not seen as hardships, but they allow us to create an atmosphere of inner serenity, to be able to focus on what's really important in my life. For me, phone calls, television, radio, all the distractions of the white noise of my life take away from focusing on what's really important. And on Shabbos, I actually get time to think.
On Saturday morning, we wake and go to the synagogue. The service basically consists of a prayer service, the weekly Torah reading, the rabbi's sermon, and the final service, which includes a lot of singing. In a traditional synagogue, the men and the women sit separated from each other. This is the traditional manner for communal prayer. It is common for married men to wear a talit, a prayer shawl, throughout the service. This is written in the Torah and appears in the Shema, the prayer we say twice a day, affirming our belief in God. During the Torah reading, men are called up to the bima, the platform, and are given aliyot. They get the honor of saying a blessing over the Torah. Other honors given out include lifting the Torah up, called Hagba, Galila, someone who rolls, wraps, and covers the Torah scroll, and the person who gets to open the ark in which the Torah scrolls are kept. The Gabbai, caretaker, is in charge of assigning the honor. When the Sabbath service is done, we once again return home for a festive meal. We repeat the Kiddush, we wash our hands, we perform the motzi over the bread, we once again eat, sing, and share our thoughts. We thank God for the blessings we are given, and in many homes, including mine, we thank God for the chulent, a traditional food consisting of beans, meat, barley, and flavorings, slow cooked because cooking is not permitted on the Sabbath.
During the Shabbos day, the custom is that many Jewish homes, and most Jewish homes, we eat cholent. Cholent is a stew of many different kinds of meat and of barley, of other, depends which country the people are coming from, or our ancestors came from. That's what we would eat in those on that Shabbos day.
When the meal is done, many people take a Shabbat nap. Others pore over sacred books like Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers. Here the Talmudic sages explain the Jewish value system and way of life in texts dating back centuries. After a relaxing and often stimulating afternoon, we gather together again for prayers. Then, remember that we're Jews, so we eat. This is the third meal. It is usually a simple meal, which suits us just fine as we begin to wind down from the Sabbath. The Sabbath is now coming to a close. What have we gained? We've spent time with our families, with God, with renewing ourselves for the week that lies ahead. But the Sabbath ends at nightfall on Saturday night. We have a special ceremony to bid farewell to the Sabbath that is called Havdalah. It is one of our most beautiful rituals. Havdalah literally means separation, and it represents the separation between the Sabbath and the start of the rest of the week. We recite Havdalah over a cup of wine or grape juice and need spices, a Havdalah candle which contains 2 wicks or 2 candles put together. We fill the cup to the brim in fulfillment of the verse, "My cup overflows with joy." We recite the blessing over the wine, then bless the spices. Why do we use spices? With the departure of the Sabbath, we lose the spiritual dimension. The spices are intended to revive us from this loss. The spices, too, symbolize how we yearn for the coming Sabbath. Now we bless the fire. We use 2 wicks. Why? There is a medrash, an oral tradition handed down from generation to generation, that says that Adam, the first man, was frightened at the first nightfall. God placed the idea in Adam's mind to strike 2 rocks together, and in this way he created fire. We are saying a blessing of thanksgiving for the fire, and using 2 wicks also. Finally, we drink the wine or grape juice and wish each other a gut Tov. Good week in Yiddish, or Shavua Tov, Hebrew for good week. Shabbat is a state of mind, a mood of peacefulness and serenity that descends on you no matter where you are or what your circumstances may be.
Shabbos kodesh, Shabbos kodesh, v'yoyim hashvi.